Hey, it's Camo with the Nashville Access Show presented by Solis North Gulch Apartments, where taste matters. It's the strangest thing. I came in today and a guitar player is just sitting on the sofa behind me and laughing. Don't even want to know why. Great show for you today. She's originally from Melbourne, Australia. I won't even bother with a Melbourne or an Australian accent, but I will say that Marmite's better than Vegemite. She currently lives in Dubai. Elizabeth Donald, hey, how you doing?
Hi, how you doing? Thank you. Vegemite is a lot better than Marmite.
No.
Let's just cover that first and foremost. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Melbourne.
Yes.
Dubai, Nashville,
yes.
The Golden Triangle.
I know, isn't it? Such a perfect trio. Yeah, it's a different trio, but it's a good trio to have, I think.
How long? Okay, so you're originally from Melbourne.
Yes, born and bred.
Born and bred.
Yeah.
And then, did you live anywhere between Melbourne and Dubai?
Yes, Los Angeles, Nashville. Spent a fair bit of time in Cape Town, South Africa, and the UK, and then Dubai, and then back, and yeah, I know. It's a child of the universe, but I think it's given me like a good broad range of musical influences and cultures and all sorts of things. So
it's funny because I'm originally from Canada, lived in the UK, and then moved here. And
God save the Queen.
Yes, exactly. And people that have lived in other places have a different perspective on where they currently live because they bring all that stuff.
You do. You do. That's something that I is really integral to who I am because it's fostered the musical, the people that have been in my life purely for the reason that I have been able to live in different cities and meet different people, and then that person knows that person, and this wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been living in so many different places.
It's one thing when you're just doing a business, but you've worked in other places because you bring all those cultures. But when it's not just a human culture, you're bringing the musical culture.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
It is, and the funny thing is, in particular, because a lot of people are like, "Why the Middle East?" You know, it's such a bizarre place, but it's one of the fastest growing regions in the world, and so there's a lot happening there. And when it comes to music, I often say to people, "Well, there's a really distinct link between Arabic music and country music. Arabic music is all about the story."
Yeah.
And it has been for centuries. In fact, if you go back in history, singers and musicians and poets were held in higher esteem than the kings.
Yeah, part of the court was making sure you had a poet.
That's it.
An artist. You know? That's
it. So it's like ingrained in the psyche and in the culture of telling that story. And then country music is, of course, storytelling. So.
It's not just country music, though. It's any story-based song, like Sting's Desert Rose.
Oh my gosh,
jumps to my, and I love that song.
Yeah,
it's just such an incredible song, and it's not the same song if you take off the Arabic.
The influence. I think it would be such a shame not to have included some Arabic influence into my music, which will be in the next records that are coming out. I really wanted that. But for the first two tracks, in particular for High Definition, I wanted a Bee Gees sound. You know, I mean, I'm Australian, Bee Gees are Australian, but I wanted that sound incorporated into that country sound as well, so it had a bit more of an eclectic feel and something a little bit fresher than what I hope that what we've heard before. So
cool. Now you have worked with some pretty cool people.
Very, very lucky girl.
One of the big names that jumps out is David Foster.
Yes, yeah. David I've known for fellow Canadian. I know, yeah, he's Vancouver. Dave and I have been friends for a really long time, for years. In fact, when I lived in Los Angeles, I lived with the director Brett Ratner for years. Right. And it was through Brett and a lot of that old LA establishment that I met Dave. And we just maintained a friendship for a really long time. And then when I said that I was going back into music, I called him and I'm like, hey, Dave. And he said, look, do you want me to produce it? I said, I'm doing country music. He's like, okay, maybe we'll get Dan Huff. So it was through Dave that I got Dan, and John McBride, of course, was sort of the guy who took me under his wing as like a second dad almost when I got here, and he really set everything up, and the session musicians and who we chose, and you know.
Now Dan Huff, my wife who's behind the camera there, she worked with Dan. They were really.
He's amazing, sweet as soul. So we had Dan and Dave Huff. We had both Huff brothers, which was a blessing. And then Dan Dugmore, and yeah, we really had the crew. But that was something that was really important to me as well. I wanted all the session musicians to come together and have that collaborative experience.
Rather than somebody sitting at their home studio and say, yeah, I'll lay down the guitar track.
Exactly.
But there you go.
Yeah, I didn't want that. Yeah. I wanted...
Old school.
I wanted old school. Yeah. I'm kind of old soul, so I said I want everyone together. And I wanted, for me, the fact that I was even getting to work with these guys, I was like, I've got to have them together because I've got to hear the conversations and I've got to see the feel and the video footage of us recording, or them actually doing the tracking of both songs, is like the best footage, because some of the guys hadn't seen each other in 7 years. Yeah. And so the stories, they were like, oh, do you remember when we did that and it sounded like that, so let's put that in. So really, it was just this beautiful process. And
there's you in the middle of all of this.
Just little me.
What am I doing here?
The newbie. I was like the rookie kid.
But it's funny because it's not just up-and-coming artists, but you hear stories of big artists who are working with powerhouses like that, and they're like, what am I doing in the center of all of this?
Yeah. You know what's funny? Dan Huff came up to me and he said, thanks for choosing me, like as an old guy, like thanks. And I was like, what? I was like, I'm sorry, Dan. Like, rewind that for a moment. And he was like, no, because, you know, a lot of younger artists, they want like the up and coming producers. And that's a mistake, in my opinion, because we had a select amount of time and I wanted guys that had it in running through their blood. That's not to say that new producers aren't fantastic in their own right. But for me, in the sound that I wanted, it was integral to have those kind of producers as part of my record. And I was fortunate enough that that was able to be the case. So.
And they're not going to just drop everything for anybody.
No.
You know, you don't get those powerhouses with having some kind of star power behind what you're doing.
Yeah, I think they saw the team that I had surrounded with me to begin with, and then I think that just kind of fed the beast, I guess, because you know I really gave away music for a really long time, and I was doing political science and international relations, and really music was just to the side. And then it just kind of organically came back around, and I thought, you know what, I'm at an age now where I'm not pushing to be a big superstar or anything, or it's
the shackles are gone.
Exactly. So that, you know, that had really been released, and
that
again
gets better too.
Yeah.
It was like, really? No, I'm not.
Exactly. So I was kind of like, well, this is the opportunity. Let's make some great music, and if people enjoy it, fantastic. You know, so it wasn't that young drive of I've got to do this, I've got to do that. It felt a lot more natural.
Nice.
Yeah.
You want to do a song and then
why not? My beautiful Katrina from Australia also.
And where are you from?
Aussies.
I'm from Australia, but I live here in Nashville now.
Where in Australia?
I'm from a small country town called Gunnedah, which is where Miranda Kerr's from.
Yeah, and
Tommy Emmanuel.
Tommy Emmanuel. That's not all that far from Tamworth, is it?
Yeah, I grew up in the heart of country music, capital of Australia. There you go.
So she's proud.
There
Here comes the city slicker. She's like, she's a country. radio, a little dust on the bottom. Oh, I like a little grainy in my picture, a little 52 in my fender, yeah, you know. But when it comes to love, yeah, when it comes to us, I want the best that money can buy. Give it to me in high definition. Get that 20/20 vision. No more hazy in my blue skies. Ain't no wasted time in lo-fi. That technical living, you can really tell the difference. If seeing is really believing it, give it to me in high definition. I like a little smoke in my mirror, a little muddy in my water, but hey, I'll shoot you straight. I want to use my intuition, get it straight from the antenna, to try to figure out what you're trying to say. Give it to me in high definition. Get that 20/20 vision. No more hazy in my blue skies. Ain't no wasted time in lo-fi. That technical living, you can really tell the difference. If seeing is really believing it, give it to me in high definition. All I really want is clarity. Satellite on my radar screen. I wanna feel everything, baby, when you stare at me. Give it to me in high definition. Give it to me in high definition. Get that 20/20 vision. No more hazy in my blue skies. No wasted time in lo-fi. That technical living, you can really tell the difference. If seeing is really believing it, give it to me in high definition. Give it to me in high definition.
Very nice.
It's a great song.
You're watching the
I
Nashville
can't take
Access
kudos
Show.
for that.
I'm talking. These people that don't know manners. They're Australian, so you're watching the Nashville Access Show with Camo, my special guest, the rude Elizabeth Dalton, and her great guitar player, harmonies, nice.
Thank you.
Katrina. So, let's talk about Dubai, because a lot of people don't know too much about it, and that you live there and work there, and making a living there is a completely foreign thing to a lot of people who watch. No pun intended.
I think what a lot of people don't realize about the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, a lot of people think Dubai is the country, where in fact the United Arab Emirates is the country, Abu Dhabi is the capital, Dubai is the vice presidency, I guess. And it's, I think at the moment, it's almost 185 different nationalities, all living in the one city together, harmoniously. Everyone celebrates each other's religious holidays. Everyone celebrates it. Honestly, it's the most inclusive place in the world, by far. I think it's very innovative. Next year, we've got the 2020 World Expo, which is going to be mind-blowing.
If they can do it when it's, because everybody does things at night, because it's just so hot during the day, isn't it?
This is the mistake, because it's only hot during the summer months. After that, it's beautiful year-round.
No, when we're talking hot during the summer months, we're talking...
In Fahrenheit, like 125.
Yeah, plus the humidity, because everybody thinks that Dubai, oh, it's up in the desert. But that desert is right up against the Arabian Sea.
That's right.
And it's like 90% humidity.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's not the most pleasant time to be there at the moment.
If you're a sweater, don't go.
Yes, don't go. Yeah. But after September and through till May, it's stunning.
How is your music accepted there? Because, as you said, there's a very huge international population. So, easy to make a living?
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm one of the only country artists. But in saying that, the top radio station there, which is through the Middle East, is Virgin Dubai Radio. And they've been playing my music. It's been there. I performed for the ruler of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed, for the Dubai World Cup, which is of course the world's richest horse race, and so it was myself and Gwen Stefani of all people. Wow. So I performed at the private and she performed at the show, if that makes sense. We had two different areas. Right. And then we've got the Formula One Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi, which I'm performing at. So I tend to do
one of my favorite. I love F1.
Okay, me too.
And the Dubai Grand Prix is
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
The Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is insanely fun.
Yeah.
It's a night race, of course, and the drivers designed the track, so it's really to their specifications. And
the top three to me are that one,
Monaco,
and the British Grand Prix.
What, Melbourne? Albert Park Lake, come on!
It's run by convicts.
But no, it's but in terms of music, which was your initial question, is they're a country. We do Friday brunches. Right. Because of course our weekends are Friday, Saturday as opposed to Saturday, Sunday. Right. So Friday brunches are not what everyone else thinks of as brunch. They're like very big parties. Wow. And the expat community certainly take those very, very seriously. And
that's brilliant. You take that seriously anyway.
We take that very seriously. So do the South Africans though, and so do the Brits. And we have a lot of British, Australian, South African. That's a very big contingency of Dubai, being that the Emirates were almost part of the English Confederacy back in the day. So no, music is a big part of Dubai, like a very big part of Dubai. We've got the Jazz Festival, we've got concerts happening year round, aside from summer when no one wants to be there, but for the rest of the year. And we just built a new arena, Coca-Cola Arena, which is, I think Maroon 5 were the first concert to have there, but it's exceptional. So,
do you find when trying to communicate with people who may or may not speak English, do you find that your music opens a lot of doors to them?
Yes, I want to say that, but then honestly, a lot of people speak English in the Emirates, so you don't tend to come across that. And of course, my generation of the local Emirati kids, everyone went to school in either the States or university in the States or the UK, and then have come home. So it's very much but in terms of like the older generation, they love the music. Wow. They love the music. Yeah, I've got like grandmothers that I'm very, very close to there that these are Bedouin women. These are women that grew up in the tribal times, and they're all about the music. And they'll tell you, different. They'll be like, "Should no do that one differently," or they're very opinionated, strong Arabic tribal women. Yeah, so it's a blessing to have that experience.
That's cool, and that you bring it all into your music, and
I try to.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get. I'm really hoping to set up almost like a Blackbird Studios in the Middle East to foster regional talent, because there's so much talent, musical talent within the region that just up to date haven't perhaps had the opportunities or the. We haven't had like a great recording studio in the region, so. Hopefully in the next year or so that will be the case, and then we can bring some of Nashville over to the Middle East and really try and cultivate a new movement.
Let me know if we can do anything, because
I would love that.
Nashville Access, we've got quite a few.
I would love that.
We've got a great fan base there, so
fantastic.
Which absolutely surprised me.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, it's funny. A lot of people just don't quite. They think Middle East, and they think that it's a war zone everywhere, and it's just not the case. So
yeah, except the difference there, the war is money. It's a lot of competition.
There are, and we are, you know, bordering. You have your Iran just across the way at the moment, so it is. But it's not a. I wouldn't say it's a volatile.
No.
You know, place to be. And I live right on the beach, smack bang on the beach, that looked onto the waters that were recently had some turmoil happening. Yeah. So I feel safe and sound.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Which do you find, from an artistic point of view, the most the best place to let your creative juices flow? Do you find it's Dubai, LA, Nashville?
Oh, goodness. That's a really tough question, because I think you take snippets out of done you, thanks, yeah. Put me on the spot. Honestly, the Middle East, because I like to go out into the desert at night time, and it gets under your skin. The desert gets on. It's the most magical place if you really want solitude, and you can just, it's just vast space. And that's such an organic place to be. And what those sands have seen over the years and the time, I often bamboozles me. But creatively, Nashville, just because you have talent everywhere, you know, you throw a stone and you're hitting talented musicians, artists, songwriters. So in that sense, Nashville, LA has something special about it. It always has done. But I think for me, that was more silver screen than it was music. And the joy of living, you know, with the producer and seeing films come to life. Yeah. And then the soundtracks and the scores and everything that goes with it. So you kind of got to take a little bit from everywhere. Yeah. It's a tough one. You want to do another song? Yeah, this one was a Hillary Lindsay song we were very, very lucky to get. So
yeah, that's one of the top writers in town.
Yes. Yes.
Nobody's gonna win this fight tonight. No one's ever gonna be wrong or right. No one wants to be the one who walks away. No one wants to be the first one to stay. Never should have said those things we said. Take the littlest things and beat it till it's dead. Breaking those dishes, slamming those doors, storm out of the room, come back for more. I know you still love me. You know I'd never leave. So erase that white flag and take those words back. I start to see your side, you start to see mine, and we pour some red wine and make love till the sun shines. 'Cause we know how fast time flies. It's easier to apologize. I could sleep on the bed, you could sleep on the couch, and with a little I'm sorry we could work it all out, or we could punish ourselves all night long. But we both know we hate sleeping alone. I know you still love me, and you know I'd never leave. So erase that white flag and take those words back. I start to see your side, you start to see mine, then we pour some red wine and make love till the sun shines. 'Cause we know how fast time flies. Easier to apologize. It's easier to apologize.
what she's doing.
Yes. Well, that again speaks to the level of talent
Thank you.
you are.
Thank you.
Because it's not easy for up and coming artists to get a Hillary Lindsay track, even if it's a Hillary Lindsay throwaway.
Yeah.
So the fact that your background with David Foster and Dan Huff and those guys, that makes it easier for you to get those kind of songs.
It does, absolutely. And it was because we had that team set up and ready to go that we had the likes of Hillary and the Warren brothers, which was high definition, open up their catalogues. So the Warren brothers are fantastic. I love those guys, and we had some really great sessions with them, and we really listened to hours and hours upon music. And I am a songwriter, but when I came to the studio, I said, look, let's get some really great songs to begin with that's going to introduce me as an artist. And
that's it. You know, they always say with artists, your first album, you've had your whole life up until then to write.
Yeah.
But when you have to turn an album over in the next year, you don't have the time.
Yeah.
But it should always be about getting the best songs, whether it's yours or somebody else's.
Exactly.
Because the song is crucial.
It is, and I don't have that arrogance in me that says it's all about me and it's all about my songs and it's my story. And for me, music isn't about that. Music is about something that resonates with that person and that person and that person, and it's not just this internal storytelling that only an artist should feel. It has to be something, and that's, I think, essentially what we feel as singer-songwriters and as artists and as performers. You want someone in the audience to cry or feel it,
well, that's what art in general is about.
Yes,
it's to create an emotion, whether it's I love it,
I hate it,
like Marmite, or I hate it, like Vegemite.
It's all about Vegemite.
It's all about creating that spark. If any emotion, if a song or a painting or any piece of art isn't evocative, then it's not good art.
Exactly. It needs to provoke something within the guts of you, and that's what sticks with you for those years to come. And that's why those artists that have the longevity have had the longevity. Because of course it comes down to there's a lot of marketing and there's the outside noise that is obviously essential to an artist these days in particular. However, it comes down to the songs. Flat bank, it comes down to the songs.
And new artists also, they write a lot of their own stuff because you don't get access to the Hillary Lindsays and the Warren brothers and those guys. So you have to write your own stuff out of necessity. But to get a quality songs, you've got to be up in your game all the time.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And it's funny because the songs, we narrowed it down to, I think, 8 songs before we narrowed it down to those 2. And the other 6, I'm like chomping at the bit to get back in the studio because I love, there's songs in that that you think these songwriters are so talented, and these songs may never get heard because maybe they'll stay in a catalogue or maybe no one will eventually cut them. And it's such a shame because I'm like, the world needs to hear some of those songs. So we'll see.
What other art creates a spark in you?
In terms of visual art?
Any kind of art, whether it's music or paintings or theatre.
I do love paintings. I love theatre. To me, life is art though. I don't think you can narrow. That sounds really frou-frou, I guess. But to me, life is art. People watching to me is art. Because I just love observing people in different scenarios or just in day-to-day life. That gives me inspiration. But in terms of art, I really, for me, it's definitely a visual painting art more than anything else.
Who's your favorite artist?
If I had to narrow it down, that's a really tough one. I love the Monets of the world. I love, I love the old school, but
Impressionists.
Yeah, I do. You can't go past your Picassos and the big names, Michelangelo's, you know. But for me, there's something about my notes just so romantic, and that's the romantic part of me coming out. I just think it's just beautiful artwork. But in saying that, sculpture, my brother's a beautiful sculptor. So I love seeing him at work, and he lives in the Middle East as well with his wife and baby. So I've got some like blood relatives there, which is great. And I think that, because it's such a hands-on interpretation of something. So
and some any of those arts, it's not dissimilar. And I always throw the joke out that, you know, they asked Michelangelo how he created the statue of David, and he said, well, I just chipped away everything that wasn't David. But it's the same thing with great songs, great paintings, any art form. You're just stripping away the stuff.
Exactly, the noise.
That isn't the essential.
The essential, yeah. And it's funny because Easier to Apologize, we heard so many times, because we went to quite a few, myself and, God bless him, John McBride, who really drove me around and was just incredible. Didn't need to do that, and really took me under his wing. And Easier to Apologize seemed to pop up at a few different meetings, and every time both of us were like, to Easier to Apologize. So
that's a really good song.
It is, and it resonates with a lot of people. So, which is a good thing.
Apologize and ask permission.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we argue over such petty things these days, and we had this conversation yesterday. Katrina said, "Isn't it? No, it's not easy to apologize. It's easier to walk out." And I was like, no. It's so easy to, you know, just forgive and forget. Is like, I find a lot easier than holding a grudge.
So you're a big star, and you're embarking on your first stadium tour as a headliner. Who opens for you?
The person who I would love to work with the most, who was actually recording at Blackbird at the same time, and I was having heart palpitations, but I love Ed Sheeran as a singer-songwriter. I think he's exceptional. He's never going to open for me, let's be honest. Sorry, Ed. Open for me? Maybe I have this talented lady here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah. I think for me, it's when you really have a great connection with someone. We immediately had a great connection. Of course, I'm very loyal to like Australian artists, because we fly all the way over here. It's a long flight. It's a long way from home. Australian artists really put themselves on the, I guess, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
I'll tell you, Australian artists get short shrift outside of Australia.
Yeah, we do.
There are so many great Australian artists that I've been hearing over the past few years, and it's like, why aren't these people getting a break?
Yeah.
But it's much like Canada. There's a whole system up there, and the same thing in the UK. Like Robbie Williams just tried and tried and tried, could not make it here.
Yeah, and our biggest artist at home, I think, you know, Delta Goodrem, really, she's friends with David Foster also. Yeah. She had a lot of people behind her, and she has not been able to crack the US market. It's a difficult one to crack.
It's different musical tastes, and I find with the Commonwealth, there are shared tastes.
Definitely.
You know, Robbie Williams, again, huge in Canada.
Yeah.
But couldn't make, and it wasn't for lack of money, lack of trying. Yeah. It was just the musical tastes of the United States are so different than Australia, Canada, and the UK. Yeah. And it's only a handful of artists that
but now, you know, Nashville, country to country, like Nashville, I know a lot of Nashville artists that are not getting played in the US, but are booming in the UK.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. Kenny Foster is doing really well. Charlie Worsham does really well outside the US. And again, it's for some reason those artist stylings just translate much better than they do here. Yeah. It's strange.
So it's an interesting world, but I think it's getting smaller but bigger at the same time, you know, with social media and all sorts of mediums that we have to work with now.
And now that it's easier to go between countries and perform, and
Yeah.
you can't find your audience here, but you go to the UK.
Exactly.
Or Dubai.
Yeah. Hopefully Dubai is going to be the new musical hub.
That's right. It's been a pleasure having you on
Thank
the
you
show
so
today.
much. Thank you.
Please come back again.
I shall.
And you too. We
Thank
need
you.
you back. We'll
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. She's amazing. Yes.
And we had Ali Colleen in here the other day,
Uh-huh.
and I asked her that question about who the show, and a lot of people take some time to think, wow, I never thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
But like that, she mentioned somebody, and it's an up-and-comer that lives up in Kentucky, and so we're going to get them in.
Fantastic.
And it's great when we get to
It's
introduce.
good synergies.
That's
Yeah.
great,
Exactly.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you've been a pleasure to be on
Thank
the
you.
show. Elizabeth Donald.
Thank you so
At home, you
much.
could applaud her.
Thank you.
And make sure you get her music. It's available on iTunes.
Yes,
Is that
iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, all there.
It'll be up on our Spotify playlist as well. So
Thank you so much.
Um,
Much appreciated.
make sure you catch her and all your social media as well.
Yes.
Easy to find.
Instagram, Elizabeth Donald Music, and then Facebook, Elizabeth Donald. Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks for watching the Nashville Access Show with Camo. Make sure you catch me on Chris Country every Sunday at midday following the Bobby Bones Show, and on 88.9 Tamworth Radio with Jody Crosby and John Wolf every Thursday morning at 9:30. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
No way.